Hello, this is Dylan Scott. This is for FST class, Legal Aspects for Emergency Services. This is my video interview for my final paper. This is my second interview. So if you've seen the first one, I'm now interviewing Chief of Pioneer-Fitchburg Fire Department just to get a little bit of different idea and thoughts compared to Chief Hesfield at Hebron. So Chief, if you don't mind, could you introduce yourself, your position, and years of service?
I'm the chief at Pioneer Fire District. My name's Jason Schloy. I've been here 24 years.
Awesome. And how long have you been the chief here?
The last 8 years.
And your position before that?
Worked all the way up from firefighter to chief throughout the years.
Okay.
I've had them all.
So you've done it all. Awesome. Thank you. So I'm going to get right into it. And like we've talked a little bit about what we're going to talk about here. Are you aware of House Bill 88-8?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Great. And so you know that House Bill 88, what it came down to is it states that special taxing districts are not covered under separate law that allows cities to be gun-free, including firehouses and the employees themselves. Were you aware of that?
I am.
Okay. So meaning by that the Board of Trustees can no longer say that their employees, us as firemen, can no longer carry or can carry weapons, and you're aware of that, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So I just wanted to make sure you have some type of background in the idea here. So my first question right off the bat is: does your department have any type of policy in place at the moment about carrying firearms while on duty?
We do not at this time.
Okay. But have you considered any, or have you contacted your department attorney?
We've discussed it, but it's a logistical problem we're trying to figure out.
So it is something that you possibly might in the future have a policy on?
Yes.
Okay, and would you prefer to have a policy, or is this something that you would prefer not to have a policy on, actually? Or are you still trying to learn?
We're still trying to learn, get informed, what we can do to make sure we do it right.
Good, awesome, that's great. So kind of that we've got a little bit that you have done some policies. If you don't mind, when you first saw this bill get passed, what was your initial thoughts? Did you immediately think positive or something negative? We'll go into some deeper thoughts, but I'm just curious what your initial thought was.
I think it's a positive thing in today's age and what's going on with the fire service, and I think it's a good thing.
Oh, yeah, I agree. If you don't mind, I know we kind of skipped around here a little bit, but can you just tell the class a little bit about the district itself? Square mileage, I know it's a pretty rural area, maybe some, farther distance times compared to like a city department that might have a police officer on scene really quick, so.
Yeah, we're all rural. We cover 24 square miles, which is that, most of our drive time, we're 19, 20 miles from the hospital. The police force is limited. We don't have a lot, so sometimes we're on the scene, 10 minutes before they get there.
Right. So there is not an active city police force. The only police force is a county sheriff's department and a county police department, correct?
Correct.
And they're pretty busy. They're in a pretty wide area.
They're
correct?
stretched, and 5 guys cover the entire county.
Okay. So, and if you, like I said, the class, if you've watched the first interview, we've talked about at Hebron we have Boone County Sheriff's Department, and there is a lot more of them. And usually the police actually beat us to the scene in Hebron, but here at Pioneer, that's usually not the case, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So now we're going to kind of talk a little bit deep. Oh, so by the way, as well, Pioneer is a part-time fire department, and at night at 7 p.m. It switches over to volunteer. Correct,
Right.
Chief?
Yep.
And that's staffed by a calendar, but it's always staffed.
Right.
So yeah. So I'm going to just get some general thoughts on each side, if you have any. I'd like to hear some positive thoughts. What do you think is some benefit of allowing a fireman to carry while on duty?
I think one of the benefits is, it gives you the ability to protect yourself
Okay.
in situations where it depends on you and your partner, and that's all it's there.
Okay. So would you still have the same feeling if a police force was larger and faster to respond here in such a rural area?
I do, because there's still times that they're not going to be there immediately because they may be tied up someplace else.
All right, I agree. Okay. So overall, you think it's a positive idea?
Yeah.
Great. And then what about some negative thoughts? This has been a pretty controversial thing. There's a few states have done it. Kentucky, Texas has gone completely through. There's been mixed emotions. A lot of times people are scared of the fireman carrying a gun, that, we're not the police, that should be handled by them, or liability on the fire department itself. Do you think any of those thoughts are reality?
Yeah, there's a liability. I think there needs to be some training. Your average guy can't just go buy a gun and carry it. There needs to be some kind of
Correct.
requirements.
And to the law states, to do this, of course, you have to have your concealed carry license.
Right. And I still think there needs to be a step above that on some kind of training.
For just us first responders, you mean?
Because anybody can go pass your CCW class and get a firearm, but
Right.
it doesn't mean you understand it.
So something a little bit deeper for
Yeah.
as us as first responders, maybe a little bit more of the legal side of things, like
the
knowing,
legal side, the consequences.
I think that's a fear of a lot of chiefs is they go up, something happens and a firefighter does draw their weapon and shoot. I think that chief is going to be scared to death that if that shooting wasn't justified,
Right.
that that's going to put a really big black eye onto that fire department. Would you
Sure.
agree?
It will, and that has to be your last resort.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Deadly force is your last resort.
I know a neighboring department, Independence, was shot at a few years ago on their fire trucks, correct?
Correct. They were.
I'm kind of hitting you with a surprise ball here, but have you ever talked to any of those guys about that situation?
I've talked to a few of them. At the time, they didn't know what it was. They really, truly didn't know somebody was shooting at them until they saw the bullet holes in the fire truck later.
Right. But that's just like you said,
It's just random.
it is, but it's just, that hits home probably extremely close for you being just a few miles up the
Yeah,
road.
you never know what you're pulling into,
Yeah.
or what somebody's state of mind is when you get there.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely. There's definitely some wackos out there. Chief, just a couple more quick questions. I'll let you go. So another major concern for some other fire departments and chiefs and things I've read and talked to is where to store the weapon if they do have to disarm themselves. With this law that has been changed, you're still not allowed to carry in schools. You're not allowed to carry in jails, and I'm forgetting the other ones. But for you here in Pioneer, I know you have a elementary school right up the street. So
We do. We have an elementary school. We do have a detention center here, and it is a big concern on how to secure your weapon.
does any of your apparatuses here have any type of safe or anything? And
We do not at this time.
would you, if once you learn more about this, would you ever consider something like that?
That has been the big discussion on how and who would pay for that and what to do.
So
what's the legality of it?
This discussion meaning with your board,
Right.
correct?
With the fire board.
Okay, great. So, but it has been brought up.
Yes.
I
It's been
think
talked
that's-
about several times.
Okay, great. And then probably one or two more questions. Do you know if anyone at this department carries that you know of?
No, not that I know of.
100% know of?
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't have like any type of list saying this guy carries, this guy doesn't, anything like
I
that?
don't have anything.
Have you ever seen anyone on the department weapon flash? Like, they bend over. Have you ever seen a
No.
weapon? No.
No.
So is it more of a don't ask, don't tell thing, or is it just this just never came up, or
Never come up, but if it's a concealed weapon,
it should be? Yeah, it should be concealed. Absolutely. That's what I was saying. I know sometimes weapons, like I've said in my other interview or my other videos, I do carry personally outside of work, but I don't carry here at work. But I know flashing does happen every so often. And I think that flashing is, I think that's one of the major concerns for me, is because, if we're here on this ambulance, we run up to Kroger to get groceries, and I do bend down and get a box of, whatever macaroni, and a citizen sees that pistol on there. I think that is one of the biggest, truly the biggest negative for me, is because, or for me to look at it is, I don't ever want anyone to think that we're the bad guys because we have pistols or we're armed.
Right. They don't think you're the police.
Right. I think that's going to be
That's
something.
a big concern. So,
Right. And one more question: do you think this is widely known in the public outside of the fire service that we're allowed to carry weapons?
No, I don't think it's known at all, really.
I agree. I
think it's unknown
Do you,
considerably.
do you think that since it is such a new law, and this is a pretty big deal, you think possibly that we should make it known so that way if they do see us with a firearm, they're not as scared? Or do you think it's more of those things, we'll just get to it when it arises, maybe?
Yeah, I think it would be better off to field those questions when they come. instead of scaring the public now.
I think I'm gonna have to agree with you on that, Chief. That's about all I wanted to ask you. If you have any general other thoughts on this at all, if negative, positive, personal beliefs, not just a chief, but just as a citizen, let me know. If not, I'm okay.
No, I think that's it. You answered everything I had.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Chief. Really appreciate it.
No problem.